Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt like you're stuck in a chapter that no longer serves you, only to discover that starting over was the best thing that has ever happened? Well, I'm Ray Martine, and this is a legendary mess. Welcome back, cousins. I missed you guys so much. I don't think you guys understand. There's a whole lot happening. We're going to touch bases on it. This is a really special episode and touchy episode. I missed you guys. First and foremost, I really did. I took 2 weeks off. There was a lot of stuff happening. We're definitely going to touch that. We are. We're going to touch all of that. It actually leads into our topic, but I have to do my usual. Cousins, like, comment, share, subscribe for others, newcomers, just to get the message across and to help spread what this could possibly help another person with. Also, you know what to do. Follow A Legendary Mess on IG or my personal page. I'm ALegendaryMess on IG. You can find me on Facebook. I started using it a smidge more as Rain M with my last name. I'm not telling y'all that, but you can find Rain M and you'll see my picture. Spotify. Obviously, share this page. And tune in every week and bring up topics and support, like, comment, share. All that good stuff. This is a special episode. There's a lot of reasons why it's special. First and foremost, we are going to start with the messy confessions. And I know I'm going to probably get judged for it a little bit, but I'm okay with this. I am. I'm okay. These past 2 weeks, I took off for a lot of personal reasons, but it's beautiful in a lot of ways. It also is going to follow into what this topic is about. So, this past weekend, which was Super Bowl weekend, I found myself having a full-blown tantrum. I'm 35. I had a full-blown tantrum with God. Before y'all judge me, judge your mothers. Judge y'all parents. Okay? Judge y'all parents. But I had a full-blown tantrum. Full-blown tantrum. But I'm so grateful that God speaks to me the way that he does, because I was having a full-blown tantrum and I had to be sat on a timeout. A whole timeout. Super chaotic. But all in all, the tantrum was because of something that normally would traumatize me. It wasn't trauma. And in a certain sense, I got very scared because I couldn't correlate what was going on. And in the midst of me unable to correlate what was happening, I threw a full-blown tantrum when I started realizing certain things. And yeah, my tantrums and with God, I was just like going through it, crying. Yes, I'm 35. I'm not so much of a thug, but don't try me. I will wholly hand it. Okay. But I was having a tantrum. I found myself crying. I found myself excessively playing. I found myself in a space that was super unfamiliar, but I'm super grateful that God spoke to me and just gently led me. And after my tantrum, first of all, while I was in full-blown tantrum mode, he sent my son. So my son, Joshua, he is 14, getting ready to be 15 soon, in like 2 months. And he has a lot of hair. He has a lot of hair. So as soon as he sent the boy in, that's what I call him sometimes, the boy. And he's my only son. But he sent the boy in. And the boy was like, can you, like, grease my scalp and put my hair up? And automatically I was like, I'm on a timeout. That's crazy. I'm on a timeout. And in that timeout, God spoke very gently, lovingly, and directly to me about what was happening. And right after I was finished with the boys' hair, which was the end of my timeout, which is a good hour and a half. Yeah, I was sad. I was on a timeout. After that, I was I found myself crying as if I hadn't been crying hours prior for a whole different reason, but all in all, it kind of still fit. Um, I found myself crying. I was really, I won't say distraught because that's not the appropriate term, but I was just crying. I was very heavy in my emotions, and I found myself just like, God, you have it. You already said what you said to me. I need to just sit down and let you do what you do because if I know for a fact if I do it myself, I'm going to screw it up. And that's the last thing I want to do. And I'm not about to try to be God. That's not my job. So I threw a tantrum, and God had to sit me down real lovingly. It also spoke to how I need to sometimes move as a parent myself. I aspire to love Christ-like. Thank you very much. But um, I'm super grateful that that happened, and the events that have been correlating and happening. In a lot of ways, I'm grateful. Um, it's not the best circumstances, but it is something that I am very grateful for that is happening, and I am understanding more and more what is my purpose and how my voice does impact certain things and how certain aspects of me and what God has given me as what I thought was a curse is really a blessing. And I'm just so grateful. And I'm letting God be God because I know if I do it, I'm going to screw it up. So I'm letting God be God, and that's my messy confessions that I threw a tantrum with God, and the man had to sit me down, sent the boy in. Don't worry, he's going to do it again to me tonight because I have to do. Before y'all say how that's ridiculous that that's how you correlate a timeout. Anytime that my kids sporadically need their hair done and I'm forced to do it, well, guess what? I am that's my timeout. That's where God will sit me down, talk to me, and gently lead and educate and just kind of work on me and get me in a space where I don't have a choice but to sit and hear what he's saying. Not that I don't, but but when I'm in the space of like tantrums, I don't hear nothing. So that's my messy confessions of the week. I threw a tantrum. Not my finest moment. And for the record, as much as I love my mother and my oldest daughter, Azaria, they watched. My mother understood what was happening. She let me have it. God bless the woman. She let me have it. And my daughter was like, "Do you need a minute? Like, are you okay? You want, like, is there anything that we can do to help?" And I was like, "Nope, just on a tantrum." So I'm very grateful for God sitting me down and just lovingly guiding me the way that He has. Um, and yep, that's my messy confessions. I had a tantrum with God. Not my finest moments. There's a lot of those that aren't my finest moments. But at my big age to be throwing a freaking tantrum, not my finest moment. But it is what it is. I'm honest. And I strive to be honest and transparent on this podcast. That's why it exists. So, leading into the topic, I had to give myself grace because He gave me grace, a lot of grace. God, golly gee, did He give me a lot of grace. But yeah, it's I'm learning more and more, and I had to be graceful, and that's where we're at with it. But today's topic is actually really special. It's something I was not expecting to occur. But have you, the question really is, and I hope others can benefit and resonate and identify or just hear and one day be able to look back and be like, I heard this. Um, have you ever found yourself stuck in a chapter that no longer serves you, only to find out and discover that starting over was the best thing that has ever happened? And that's what's been happening these last 2 weeks. Um, a lot of long story shorts. these past 2 weeks, it was a numerous amount of things happening. My computer shut down, my software shut down. There was some family things that needed to be attended to. And being that I am my mom's oldest, it is my duty to be her backup and make sure that she's good. Plus, before my grandmother passed, which I take super duper heavily on for a lot of reasons, I made a promise to that woman that I would always have that woman's back. Not that she needed to know, not that she needed a confirmation, but to just ease that aspect of her, you know. There was a lot happening in between my personal life, including my work life, because my work life has gotten to a space where it's in the space of kind of almost the unknown. And right now, I'm stepping out on nothing but faith. I have nothing but God and faith in all these situations. And what led to the tantrum was there was a multitude of things happening very quickly, very on top, and I was trying to process. So normally I'm very good at processing. This time, my process half of my brain was burnt out, like burnt out. And I, I, at that point, I was experiencing not just a burnout, but I couldn't identify what was going on. So I had a tantrum. I'm very honest about this. I'm not going to sit up here and lie to y'all. I had a full blown tantrum, like tears. I wasn't angry with God. I was just super duper uncertain. And when I'm uncertain, it scares me. And when I get to that space, it is hard for me to decipher a lot. So God just had to put me on a timeout, and He sent the boy. So as I'm processing, Him sending the boy and Him very sternly and lovingly and kindly and gently speaking to me, God Himself, which I have a very, I have like the uniquest and dopest relationship with God. And He gently and ever so kindly put me on a timeout to talk to me like I was two. And I'm not mad. I'm not. And He was speaking to me about something that He had shown me months in advance. So it was something that I like. Even myself, I wish I could share all the great things that He does to speak to me, but I'm going to share specific ones which y'all are going to more and more hear about. But some months ago, God does speak to me very vividly in dreams. He is very, very intentional with speaking to me in a dream. And sometimes whenever He sends certain people in the dream, I'm alert and aware something's happening or whatever. He sent my grandmother. And this was in like August. And it was August of last year, 2024. And He sent my grandmother, but she didn't say a word to me. So that was one. And I was kind of like, all right, lady, you in here. And you got your kneecaps out. And my grandmother wasn't always a person who wore shorts. But she had this really dope outfit on. But she was at a distance and she just kept nodding at me. There was a series of things in the dreams that were happening, but she was so consistent with just standing and being a presence. And she kept nodding. She kept nodding. That was one. So I was like, something, I said, I was speaking to my mom and I was like, Grandma showed up in a dream, but she didn't say anything. And I'm not sure how to take that. And my mom was like, really? Like, Grandma? I said, yeah, Grandma showed up in a dream and she's wearing a color that I'm not very familiar with her ever wearing out of all the years that I've been amongst that woman. But, when I spoke and told my mom that, I just couldn't decipher what was happening. And it was odd because normally when I see my grandmother, she usually speaks, she has something, but she didn't say anything. So the events that were happening in the dream were just very wacky. They didn't make sense. Um, and it was a lot. So, uh, like 2 weeks later, I had a dream that for sure did not make an ounce of sense. Um, my second daughter, whose name is Angeli. She is partially named after my Aunt Olivia, who we called Aunt Lee. God rest her soul. I love the woman to death. She plays such an integral part of my very fiber and faith of God and reading the Bible and being a woman of faith and a woman of God. She plays a very big part of that. Because a lot of mornings when my older siblings were in school, she was reading the Bible to me and she was showing me, and I'm so grateful for that. That's why I feel like I've been in a certain manner blessed, and I'm so grateful for that. But my aunt was in a dream. It was very eerie because I couldn't correlate why this dream was happening. My great aunt Olivia, aka Aunt Lee, my siblings know, and my loved ones, all those who know who she is and know that my daughter Angeli, my second daughter, has the name, a partial namesake after her. She popped up in a dream, but it was very eerie because my Aunt Lee passed in 2002 before my niece was born. And it was very eerie that she was in a dream dying again. And she was aware of this. And her message in the dream was, "You're going to be okay." The series of events that were happening were what should have traumatized me didn't. I just remember in the dream taking a very deep breath and saying, okay. And it's rare when she comes to me in a dream. It's rare when my grandmother comes to me in a dream. But there's been very many instances that they've come to prepare me for things. I knew I was in preparation for something. I just didn't know what. And I didn't know when. So I didn't know. I was in a space where I was like, okay, I prayed about it. I let it go. The end of January, something with my family has happened, and it it should have traumatized me, and it didn't. And I was like, okay, all right, so this is what's happening. It didn't traumatize me. Everyone else around me was very, very much affected, which I expect. But the aspect of me feeling and was expecting me to be re-traumatized didn't happen. I was met with supernatural peace, which is God granted and God given. And I was moving in a manner that I couldn't explain, or it's not explainable. You just have to it's really one of those things that you just have to understand. God is leading me. He's got me and he's leading me. As that's going on, there were things happening with my job that then started to come about, and that, as scary as it was, I wasn't scared. I just kind of like, okay, that's one. Then there was certain opportunities that I was like being presented with, that it wasn't that they were going RE or going left or going right. They just were in a jumble. So for 2 weeks, I'm moving about this as gracefully as possible and just with prayer. And last weekend, it was a series of things that were happening, and I thought maybe it was finally my trauma catching up, and it wasn't. I just became in the space of uncertainty and couldn't figure out what was happening and why I wasn't traumatized. I had such a long list of questions. I'm like, why am I not traumatized? Why is this? And why am I moving in the and I me and God were just having this conversation. I wasn't angry at him. I want y'all to note this. I was not angry at him. I was so uncertain that I became scared because I didn't recognize my own self with my movements and how I was moving with each and every situation. I'm very and it's sad to say, but a lot of situations I'm very used to being traumatized. That sucks. It does. A lot of my childhood life and adolescent life has been based off of trauma after trauma after trauma and re-traumatizing, right? But because I've gotten to this space where I my relationship with God and Jesus are this way, I didn't recognize that I was literally, before y'all, if y'all know, y'all know, being made new, like the song. Shout out to Pastor Jason Nelson and Madison Ryan Ward. Y'all should check that out. It's a gospel song, but it is a very great song. Everybody should hear it and kind of take it in. That's just my suggestion and opinion, but you're all allowed to have your own. I don't judge. But I did not recognize that I was in a space of starting over, and that's what God was telling me. He was telling me He was refining me, and He was making me unrecognizable, not just to others, but to myself. And that this was a whole different and new chapter, that it would be a starting over. And this was while I'm greasing and doing my son's hair. At that point, I just was like, okay, so this is what's happening. Heard you. Got it. Like, I don't, I noticed that I wasn't reacting the same to certain things. I wasn't, I had a certain level of discipline that I normally don't have unless I'm determined to prove somebody wrong, like with a chip on my shoulder. The level of discipline that I have now, I'm just kind of like, we're going to get this done, but we're not going to rush. We're going to move at the pace that it's supposed to be leveled on. Um, when it came down to the things that were supposed to be like traumatic to me, I wasn't traumatized. I was met with extreme and extraordinary peace. And I, I, it was so unrecognizable because I'm so used to how the past events have done me. God really had to sit me down and explain to me, that's not that anymore. You're not even that person. You are literally a whole different person. I'm purposely purifying you and refining you because what you're about to encounter next is going to be something that I had been preparing you for. And this is how I knew He was purifying me. First off, I do not like that song Refiner, okay? I don't. It's a great song, but I don't like it because every time I play it, since it's been out, I end up in the refine I end up being refined. And I don't like the process. I'm honest enough to admit that I don't like the process. Because for me, I'm always like, dang, this process be hard. And I often feel like I'm failing it. This was it was so pivotal that God had to sit me down on a timeout and be like, you're not failing it. This is what's happening. And as it was happening and I'm moving about it and I'm moving as I was moving, I had to take a minute in the middle of my tantrum and separate myself and just cry. Naturally, I'm not a person who cries. Let me as much as I want to say I'm not a person who cries, I have to also correct it in a certain sense. Growing up, I often cried a lot. I was nicknamed the crybaby. I'm very sensitive. Um, but when circumstances happen, like my mom's passing, being in foster care, being around in unfortunate situations, I had to then learn how to grow such a tough skin that I wouldn't cry at certain things unless it was like a death. Like I didn't cry over Joy's things. I didn't cry over being stressed out. I would often just shut myself down and just be in a corner and be like, I'll process it and then I'm gonna move accordingly. So a lot of people always were like, I can care. The biggest issue that I struggled with that God definitely delivered me on was that He brought me back to a space that is familiar, but also very foreign because I haven't done it since I was a child. I have not been a person who cries a lot since I was in my childhood. And now in the space that I'm in as an adult, even yesterday, sitting with a very good friend, Star, shout out to you. Um, she I was crying. Like I don't want to say I was bawling, but I was definitely sat down and crying my eyeballs out because there's so much of me that I do not allow people to have access to. And I have to have a certain level of comfort and safety to allow that with others. But this was something where I was and it was so beautiful how she worded it. I'm going to word it the way that she worded it because she said, I'm watching you being purified and I'm watching you blossom differently. And it's actually really, really beautiful. And I was like sitting next to her on the sofa, like crying. First of all, I got my eyes are puffy, my nose, and we were praying, and just it was, it wasn't a lot. It was the right amount of things, because I always want to be. I pray for, when I pray, I don't always pray for myself. A lot of the times I don't pray for myself. I pray for my family, near, far, in contact, not in contact. I pray for them. I'm often always praying over my kids, because the first thing I always say is, God, they are your kids more than they are mine. Those are your children more than they are mine. Move how you want to move, lead them, and I just ask that you meet them where they are, so they can see who you want them to be. And that's important to me, because it took me for a very long time to get to where God has me now. And I'm I'm just grateful. But the 2 weeks that I was away and unable to film, and I do have episodes, I just couldn't, my software was down and my computer was down. And I took that as God wants me to take a break. It was like God told me to sit this one out. It's cool. But then the second week rolled around, and what was happening, all these things that were happening, and my software was still shut down. And I was like, dang, God want me really to take a break. Like, what's going on? But then he's, again, like, I had a tantrum, and he said, you're going to still use your voice. You're still going to do what I have set up for you. And he did. And I'm back filming with my natural hair color, because he told me to go back. As much as I love my ash light brown hair, he was like, I need you to be my child again. So what I've learned is I'm in the Jesus glow up. And I love it, because my skin clear, all that's clear, you know. And I just feel a lot better. But as all this was going on, and I was learning that he was virtually making me inside and out, purifying me, refining me, and making me super unrecognizable. Normally I would resist that, but there's no space for me to do that anymore. There's not. And a lot of my things are like, I could lose a lot. And I have lost a lot. I've lost my parents. I've lost children. I've lost a lot. The children, yes, I know y'all heard that. It will be a separate, that's a whole different episode. And I've lost a lot. Friends, family. I don't count my ex-husband as a loss. We co-parent very well, and I pray over him frequently, to the point, like, I was praying for years for our co-parenting to be in a certain space, and it's that now, and I don't think y'all understand how grateful I am. Like, it's super refreshing, because it wasn't always that way. And eventually he will be on here to talk about that, because he knows it wasn't that way. We were not, there was a good, like, 2 years we did not like each other, and I found us, like, in a space of bitter co-parenting, to a degree. Like, he was bitter, and I was just, like, struggling and forcing to make it work, and I don't like that. I just don't. If it don't, I don't like forcing nothing. But I'm so grateful that God sat me on my timeout, and he said, this is what's happening. And he said, I'm starting over. And this chapter doesn't scare me. It doesn't traumatize me. It doesn't make me feel indifferent. It doesn't make me feel hurt. It doesn't make me feel scared. I'm actually more excited than I've ever been. And that's so dope and beautiful in itself. And it made me also think of when my sister said something on my birthday. She goes, sometimes I don't even understand how you have the amount of faith that you do. And I remember one day we were having a text. She was checking in on me after something really devastating had happened. And she's just like, I'm just so happy you have the faith that you have, and you are where you are. And I said, a lot of it is just not me. And that's true. A lot of it isn't me. God moves me, and I'm very grateful for him moving me the way that he has. And I'm grateful that this last year, maybe almost 2 years, has been nothing but God breaking and rebuilding me. And I'm grateful for that. I really am. I don't think anybody understands how grateful I am, besides the people who watched and had to sit with me. Um, but this chapter starting over doesn't scare me. It excites me so, so much. Like, even on the worst of worst days, I wake up and I still have a lot of joy and I still have a lot of faith, and it's unexplainable. It actually scared my kids the other day that they were like, "How are you up and freaking jolly?" And I was just like, "Cause God got me up." Ah! And them kids was like, "I don't know if we need to be more like you or whatever. Maybe." They thought I had an energy drink and I didn't. They also thought I had coffee. I'm not even allowed to drink coffee anymore because of health reasons. But they just were like, maybe she's on drugs. I'm not. But to be able to have this kind of testimony in a space that's normally something that would scare me halfway to death, and I'm not scared, I'm just super joyful and excited. I trust everything that God does with me because He has never steered me wrong. He has been intentional with me my entire life, and I am very, very grateful for that. I don't know about anybody else, but one thing I will tell y'all, God has always been super intentional with me, and He has never once failed me. Whatever it was that I wanted, He's always sought better and gave me what I needed, and I'm grateful for that. It might have took a lot of introspective work and therapy, but I'm always grateful that God has done what He has done for me, because I'm still trying to, like, even the other night, me and my mom stayed up real, real late and we was just talking. And I said, there's certain things that I can't wrap my brain around. And as y'all know, I cannot wrap my brain around jealousy. I can't. I don't understand it. It's foreign to me. And I said, it's so odd to know that there are people who look at me and are envious, and they don't understand the things that I struggled and that I cried over and that I prayed about. The simplest things, like when I lost my mom, and most people are like, oh, you must have prayed for your mom to come back. Yes, I did. I'm going to be first and foremost. Yes, I did pray for I'm like, God, can you please bring her back? I miss her. I need her. I don't know what's happening. But I also prayed. There were days that I was just like, God, please, I pray that you find me a family that loves me genuinely and will raise me as their own. When you lose a parent and you're in the wilderness, that's what it was. I was literally in the wilderness for like 3 years, and I struggled. And when my mom, now my mama, got to me, even when I look back, as much as it was foreign, we meshed together so well that it didn't make sense. It was perfect peace, but it was perfect alignment, because no matter how many times I look back on it, my late mother and my mom have the same birthday, different years. You, that's God. It's not a coincidence, and God doesn't do coincidences. But they had the same birthday, different years. They've met right before my late mother passed. They had a dope conversation, and she said, "I will always be thankful that God has placed us together the way that He placed us together, and that He's always pushing for us to stay together." All the times I used to rebel and be like, we have to be separate because people like think I'm your like an extra limb of you, because they do. I have a lot of family members that are like, well, Rain's coming with you, and I'm like, no, the freak, I'm not. She's a grown woman. Even though it used to piss me off in a certain sense, and it used to make me uncomfortable, and it used to make me have to look at people like, you don't see me as a separate person and you don't see her as a separate person. Like, she also has other children. Like, acknowledge them. One thing I always do is advocate for my siblings of all ages. Like, that's something I advocate for. Like, if you do them wrong, I'm on your neck. You say something crazy in my presence about them, I'm on your neck. You don't acknowledge them to a certain degree, I'm on your neck. Like, that's just how it goes. It's just how it goes. And even with a recent sibling who, despite we have such a tumultuous relationship, even like Christmas Eve, I left her this voicemail. I said, yeah, I don't like what you do towards me, and sometimes the kids, a lot of times, but I love you. That's not going to change. It will never change. And it don't matter how many times we go through it. If somebody talk crazy about you, we can squabble up. I'm going to hit you. Listen, I could be saved, holy, and sanctified, but I'm still ratchet on the inside, and my hands still work, and they will wholly help you to understand, like, stop playing with me and these people that are my family. Like, I don't play like that. And I have a lot of siblings. So even in the conversation with my mother, there is a particular person that used to talk really nastily about my siblings to me and thought it was cool and thought it was comfortable. And I would frequently check this person to the point I had to cut them off because I was like, first of all, I'm doing this for my mental well-being and my safety. First of all, you are my mother's friend and you are not obligated to have to insert yourself in anything of mine. But you're not going to talk about my siblings. Like, let's not. Squabble up is a real thing on me. Like, yeah, I know I'm ratchet, but I'm really saved. That's really real life, my life. Like, I'm really, don't play with me. Like, pray, okay? Pray with me. Don't play with me. That's not what you want to do. But even my sibling, like my older sister, and I say this, and at some point, I hope she sees it and she understands. Like, yes, we're always gonna go through it, but you, screw that you're part of our mother. You're my sister at the end of the day. I'm gonna love you and back you up, even when you're dead wrong. I'm gonna check you on it, separate and privately. But I don't have to always like what you do, and you don't always have to like what I do. And if we always have to bump heads, I always want her to still know I love you. That's not gonna change. I don't have any hate towards you. I'm never gonna be that person that hates another person because it's not built to me. It's not in my DNA. I love you. I just don't like what you did, and sometimes I don't like you. Sometimes, but that doesn't change the notion that that I love you. That goes for any one of my siblings. I will love every last one of y'all. I don't have to like y'all in the moment or like what you did or like how you carried certain things. But when it's all said and done, one thing's for sure, and the second thing is for certain. I love you, and the second thing for certain, I'm gonna have your back no matter what. Because if somebody want to feel crazy and talk, I'm pulling up. And one thing any one of them siblings will tell you, especially my older sister, I pop out of trunks. I'm that crazy. Like my noggin don't be noggining sometimes. And sometimes the salvation just kind of leave. And I gotta jump in the trunk and pop out and I gotta hit a Kendrick, pop out and show y'all. But God deliver me. But don't play with me. Pray, but don't play. That's where we at. But this chapter starting over is dope. Like I'm excited. I'm excited for so much. Like not just what God promised me and spoke to me on, but I'm excited to just watch it unravel. Yes, I know there's going to be a lot of hardship. There's going to be a lot of different trials and tribulations, but I am so, so excited. And I'm just so, so grateful that it's not scary. And he's given me so much grace and he's done so much work on me and in me that this chapter does not scare me. It excites the mess out of me. And even with the trials and the tribulations that's happening right now, I'm excited. I'm grateful. I'm joyful. I might have my moments where I might want to throw a tantrum and might want to rebel, but all in all, God knows I'm going to move in obedience because I can't afford to lose him. And one thing I'm going to be very honest on that I said in a prayer to God, I said, I can lose everything and everyone. I just can't lose God. That's the only thing that holds me together and has been holding me together my entire life. So even when I feel like there's not enough hope or I'm not good enough, he's there to he doesn't just he's not just there to remind me. He holds my hand and he walks me through all these things. And he's the reason why when a lot of people are like I'm so strong, it's not me, it's him. He's given me that and I'm not what y'all think, but I also have to understand not everybody has that correlation and not everybody believes that. And I've learned recently that my job is to use my voice in the most positive aspect, not just to bring glory to him, but to also let others know, like, you guys are seen. Like, I get it. You guys are seen. There's certain things that you think somebody might not understand. Hi, hello, I'm Ray Martine, and I understand, and I've been through. I think I've lived so many lives in one lifetime. It's ridiculous, but I've lived once too many lives in one lifetime. In all the 35 years that I've been living, I've lived a lot of different lives. And I'm just grateful that God is using me as the vessel that he's using me as. And I just pray that I can help others. And that's something that is an answered prayer by itself because I remember praying that as a child. I prayed to be able to help others. And however that looks, I will move in that manner. As long as y'all don't see no yeeks and nip nips, I'm good. Y'all ain't gonna see no nudity. I don't do those. I'm scary. But even where I thought using my voice would be of singing, I love singing a lot, and I thought that was my calling for a very long time. Sometimes I still think it is, but God also said that's part of my calling, but the way that he has set me up and built me is what sets me apart enough to utilize me in the manner of using my voice, because I've lived one too many lifetimes in one lifetime. One too many lives, one too many lifetimes in one whole setting of 35 years. It's chaotic to think that and realize that, but it is the truth, and I'm proud of me. That's why I'm a legendary mess, and that's why I have this podcast. And that is one thing that I will always tell you guys: give yourself grace. I have to give myself grace every day because I know I fall short. Whether it's my patience, sometimes not being slow to anger, sometimes like not really moving the way that others or I want to move, or sometimes I step out of the box and not move the way that God moves. But He redirects me. He snatched me up real quick and be like, "Hey, that's not what I told you to do. Skadoodle, do it right." And I have to give people grace. Because God gives me so much grace, and it's ridiculous because that was also something I was very like uncertain about. I was like, you like, I don't understand why you see something special in me and why you want me to do this and why. And he literally just was like, hey, I see what you don't see, and it's not your job to lean on your understanding or to figure out my ways. And he's 100% right, because one of my favorite scriptures is Proverbs 3:3 to 3:6, which is trust in the Lord and not lean on your own understanding. That set of scriptures, but that first line will never not, and let love and faithfulness, be bonded, because that's what you're supposed to lead with, and humility. But I strive to always lead with love and humility and honesty and transparency, even more so now. And I also know leaning on my own understanding gets me in trouble. I have a long track record of it. But I'm grateful. And God has been really, really good. He's even better when I'm in that space of trials and tribulations. And right now he's on he's on one. And I'm grateful and I'm excited. And it's not even for the blessings, it's just for the journey. The journey of starting over doesn't scare me anymore. It actually excites me. And I'm excited to see what this new start looks like. I'm excited to share with you guys as soon as the rest of it kind of unfolds, and you guys will see it unfold. And I'm grateful. And I just want to leave y'all with thinking about the times that you guys had to start over and it might have scared you, or the times that you didn't even know you were in the process of starting over. Share that. Those all matter. You matter. And we all matter, but those things that you didn't realize was a start over, think about them, because you be surprised. Like, it might have been something that's so insignificant that we overlooked, or you overlooked, that it led to starting over. And I hope you guys share that. And that's it's a beautiful thing. It's not scary all the time. It's not traumatizing. Sometimes it's absolutely beautiful, because it's so uncertain and it's so unrecognizable that you don't have no choice but to go with the flow. And that's where I'm at. I don't have a choice but to go with the flow, and I love it. It's calming. It's exciting. Also, because I might be a little bit of an adventure hooch. I love when God take me on an adventure. I don't know why. Don't ask, but an adventure for me is something fun. It's like, ooh, never ending. What are we getting into today? That's kind of how I move, and I'm excited for this particular adventure and new start. So, before I sign off, y'all already know what I'm about to say. Give yourselves grace, but in the manner that you give yourselves grace, think back to when you really were stuck in a chapter that no longer served you, and you realized you were starting over. What did that look like for you? I know what it looks like for me now versus what it used to look like, because I'm a whole different person now. But think about that, and think about what led to what, or how it impacted you and how it affected you and how you handled it and how you moved forward. Of course, we're going to have stumbles. That's why God gives us a lot of grace, and You have to give yourself grace. That is the number one thing that I will stand on. Give yourself grace because you're human. And you're supposed to embrace that. I learned that too. The man, Big G told me that. But he's leading and he's moving and he's doing a lot, and that's going to be the story that I stand on and tell. That should be what your story is, that you stand on and tell too. But before I sign off, I love you, cousins. I've missed you, and trust me, I'm back. And we're gonna have more new episodes. Be prepared. I love you, but God loves you way more. God loves you more. Um, please give yourselves grace. Give yourselves grace. Embrace the human aspect of yourselves, because none of us are superheroes and we're not super villains. We're just who we are. But give yourselves grace and love yourselves and love each other. And before I officially sign off, like, comment, share, and subscribe. A Legendary Mess. Follow me on social media. I am Ray on IG, and also A Legendary Mess on IG. You can find me on Facebook as Rainem with my last name, and I'm still not telling y'all that. Get over it. Y'all can find me. I'm not that hard to find. And on TikTok, if y'all still have it, because I refuse to not give up my TikTok. It stays. You can find me on Rain Martine. But yeah, like, comment, share, subscribe, share your stories. Feedback is always welcomed. And if there's things you want me to speak on that I probably most likely have been through, tell me, share. We're family at this point. We cousins. But nonetheless, as I'm signing off, I love you, but God loves you more. Give yourselves grace. And until then, I am Ray Martine, and this is A Legendary Mess. I'll see you guys soon.